I held that fishing rod with trembling hands, staring at the ocean that swallowed everything. The waves crashed against the rocks with the same violence that pounded in my chest. They said I did that to my own sister. Said I used that object to destroy her innocence before throwing her into the sea like garbage. My name became synonymous with monster. But what if I told you the truth is much darker than anyone imagined? What if I told you the real demon was right by my side the whole time, using my face as a mask? My name is Marcus. I'm 24 years old and I've been serving a life sentence for 3 years for a crime that completely destroyed my family and my life. They convicted me of doing unspeakable things with the rod and qualified murder of my younger sister, Laura, who was only 11 years old when it all happened. According to the prosecution, I violated her with a fishing rod and then drowned her in the ocean to hide what I had done. The evidence seemed irrefutable. My DNA was everywhere, my fingerprints on the rod, witnesses who saw me near the beach that day. But there's something no one wanted to hear. I didn't do it. I know what you're thinking. That's what all convicts say, right? And you're right to doubt. 3 years ago, I would doubt too if I were in your place. But before you judge me, before you close this video thinking I'm just another criminal trying to clear his conscience, I ask you one thing. Give me the chance to tell you what really happened in that house, in that family, and especially what happened that day at the beach. Within these cold concrete walls, I have 23 hours a day to think. Think about how my life collapsed in a matter of hours. Think about how the system swallowed me without even chewing. Think about who really took Laura's life and why that person managed to put me here in their place. My lawyer has been working on appeals for 2 years. We've found some inconsistencies in the case. Some witnesses are recanting their testimonies, and there's evidence that was conveniently ignored during the trial. But the system is slow, brutally slow. And meanwhile, I rot in here, carrying the weight of a crime I didn't commit and the pain of having lost my little sister in the worst possible way. The reason I'm telling this now is because I finally got authorization to record this testimony as part of the review process. My lawyer believes public opinion can pressure for a new investigation. I have nothing left to lose. My life has already been destroyed. My mother died of grief a year after my conviction. My father disowned me. Friends disappeared. I'm a ghost to the world out there. But the truth? The truth is still alive. And it needs to be told. If you're really paying attention to me, if you're willing to listen to what a man sentenced to life in prison has to say about his innocence, I need you to do something for me now. Like this video so more people can see it. Subscribe to Traumatic Accounts and turn on notifications to follow any developments. And mainly, comment where you're watching this from. I need to know my voice is reaching beyond these bars. I need to know there are still people willing to question what was sold as absolute truth. Because what you're about to hear will make you question everything you think you know about family, about loyalty, and about how far someone will go to save their own skin. I'm going to tell you about a seemingly normal family that hid rotten secrets. I'm going to tell you about a brother I loved who betrayed me in the cruelest way possible. And I'm going to tell you about an 11-year-old girl who deserved to grow up, to live, to be happy. Laura deserved real justice, not this farce that put the wrong man behind bars. I grew up in Malibu, California, in a 3-bedroom house a few blocks from the beach. My dad, Robert, was a mechanic and had his own shop. My mom, Claire, worked as an administrative assistant at a public school. We weren't rich, but we never lacked anything. We were 4 siblings. I was the middle child. The oldest was Ryan, 2 years older than me. At the time of the incident, he was 23 and I was 21. Then came me, and much younger came Thomas, who was 14, and Laura, the youngest, at 11 years old. She had been a surprise for our parents, who already thought they wouldn't have more children after Thomas. Laura was the light of the house, that kind of child who fills any room with laughter. She loved to draw, always carrying a notebook under her arm making drawings of mermaids and sea animals. She dreamed of being a marine biologist. Every weekend she begged us to take her to the beach to study the little fish, as she said. Laura and I were close. I always had patience with her, helped with homework, took her for ice cream. She called me Mark, because when she was really little she couldn't say my full name. That nickname stuck. Ryan, on the other hand, was always different with me and with her. He was Dad's favorite, the firstborn, the one who helped at the shop since he was 14, the man of the family when Dad wasn't around. But there was something about him that always bothered me, even when we were kids. A coldness. A way of looking at people as if he were calculating something. He had sick jealousy of any attention that wasn't directed at him. When our parents praised my grades, Ryan wouldn't talk to me for days. When Laura got birthday presents, he made sure to accidentally break one of her toys. But it was so subtle, so well disguised, that our parents thought it was all in my head when I complained. Ryan is just competitive, Dad would say. He doesn't mean any harm, Mom would add. When I was about 16 and Ryan was 18, he started working with my dad at the shop full-time. That's when things really started to change. Ryan gained more freedom, more money in his pocket, more power at home. He bought an old car and fixed it up, started going out more, drinking with friends, coming home late, and he started getting more aggressive. Nothing that drew much attention. A shove here, a curse there, but always with me or with Thomas. Never around our parents. He was smart like that. Knew exactly how far he could go without getting caught. With Laura, he was different. Sometimes even too affectionate, you know? That kind of affection that gives you a knot in your stomach without you really understanding why. He made a point of being alone with her. Took her for car rides. Bought things for her for no reason. I thought it was strange, but couldn't quite put my finger on what exactly was wrong. And when you suggest something like that about your own brother, people look at you like you're crazy. When Laura was about 9 years old, I started noticing changes in her. She got quieter, didn't draw as much anymore, was afraid to sleep alone. Our mom thought it was a phase, took her to a psychologist once or twice, but nothing too serious. I asked her several times if everything was okay. She always said yes, but her eyes said something else. I should have insisted more. Should have protected her better. 2 years passed. I was 21 years old, working part-time at a hardware store and studying civil engineering at night. Ryan, at 23, practically ran the shop alone because my dad had started having health problems. That gave him even more control over everything. It was around that time I noticed Ryan had developed a hobby: fishing. He went fishing every week, sometimes alone, sometimes taking Thomas, and he started taking Laura too. I didn't like it. I can't explain it, but something in my stomach twisted every time he announced he was taking the little one fishing. But how could I forbid it? I was just the middle brother. I had no authority over anything. Laura came back from those fishing trips different. Quieter. More frightened. Once I saw bruises on her arm and asked what happened. She said she had tripped on the beach rocks. Ryan confirmed the story with that cold smile of his. I should have done something. Should have confronted him. Should have told our parents, even without concrete evidence, but I didn't. And that guilt will haunt me for the rest of my life. Because 3 months before that horrible morning when Laura disappeared, I saw something that should have made me act immediately. It was late at night. I had come back from college and went to get water in the kitchen. I heard a noise coming from Laura's room. I went there and saw the door ajar. Ryan was inside, sitting on her bed, running his hand through her hair while she slept. When he saw me, he didn't seem embarrassed at all. Just said, "She had a nightmare. I came to calm her down." But his eyes... There was something in his eyes that made me freeze on the spot. Something predatory. I said I would take care of her and he left the room. But I did nothing beyond that. Didn't tell anyone because I didn't know what to tell. My brother was watching my sister sleep sounds paranoid, you know? But I should have spoken up. Should have screamed. Because what happened 3 months later could have been prevented. The 3 months leading up to that day were the worst of my life, and I didn't even know the worst was still to come. Laura started having panic attacks. She would wake up at dawn screaming. My mom thought it was nightmares, but when I went to calm her down, Laura would grab my arm hard and whisper, "Don't let him take me again, Mark, please." I would ask who. She never answered, just cried until she fell asleep again. Ryan, meanwhile, was increasingly present. He had developed a strange obsession with being near Laura, offered her rides home from school, bought her favorite snacks, and worst of all, he had started documenting their fishing trips with photos. Once I accidentally grabbed his phone, he had left it on the living room table, and saw the photos. Dozens of photos of Laura, at the beach, holding a fishing rod near the rocks, inside his car. Some were normal, but others were too focused on her. Close-ups of her face, of her body. I confronted him. Said that was strange, that he was acting obsessively. Know what he did? Laughed in my face and said, You've always been jealous of me, Marcus. Since you were little. Jealous because I'm Dad's favorite, because I earn more because I'm more successful. Now you're jealous because Laura likes me more than you? That burned inside me. It wasn't jealousy. It was concern. But Ryan had that talent, turning your legitimate concerns into your flaws, making you doubt your own instinct. I should have shown those photos to someone, but to whom? My dad idolized Ryan. My mom always thought I was exaggerating. Friends would think it was my paranoia. So I just kept watch, monitored when he was near her, tried to be home as much as possible when he was there. But I had work, had college, couldn't be there 24 hours a day protecting Laura. A month before that fatal day, something happened that should have been the trigger for me to act drastically. I had come home early because college had been canceled. It was around 8 p.m. My parents had gone out to dinner. Rare thing, it was their wedding anniversary. Thomas was sleeping at a friend's house. The house was too quiet. I felt a chill down my spine. I went upstairs slowly and heard muffled crying coming from Laura's room. I opened the door abruptly. Ryan was there, standing near her bed. Laura was curled up in the corner, hugging a pillow, with her eyes wide with terror. She was in pajamas, but her shorts were twisted in a strange way. "What's going on here?" I shouted. Ryan turned with that frightening calmness of his. "Nothing much. Laura had a panic attack. I was calming her down, but his hands were shaking, and he was sweating. In the middle of winter, he was sweating. "Get out of here. Now," I said. He smiled. That psychopath smile I'll never forget. And he left calmly. I ran to Laura. "What did he do? Laura, tell me. Did he hurt you?" She was in shock, trembling, couldn't speak, just shook her head no, but her eyes screamed that something was wrong. Very wrong. I stayed with her until our parents arrived, tried to make her talk, but nothing. It was like she had shut down. When my parents arrived, I told them what I had seen. My mom was worried, but my dad? My dad exploded at me. "What exactly are you accusing your brother of? He was taking care of his sister and you turned it into something dirty? What's your problem, Marcus?" I tried to explain. Tried to talk about the photos, about the strange behavior, about how Laura had changed. But Ryan arrived at that moment and denied everything with such conviction, with such fake indignation, that my parents took his side. "He's going through stress at college," said Ryan, looking at me with fake pity. "He's seeing things that don't exist." And my parents believed him. Of course they believed him. Ryan had always been the perfect son, the reliable one, the responsible one. I was just the paranoid middle child. That night, Ryan came into my room after everyone fell asleep. He closed the door and looked at me with those dead eyes. "If you try to accuse me of something again, I will destroy you," he said calmly, like someone commenting on the weather. "You have no idea what I'm capable of. And if you keep interfering, the one who's going to get screwed won't be me. It'll be you. And Laura." It was a clear threat. But even so, I did nothing. Because I was afraid. Afraid of my own brother. The following weeks were silent hell. Ryan avoided being alone with Laura when I was home. But I knew that in the moments when I wasn't there, something continued to happen. Laura was increasingly faded. Her drawings, when she still drew, were dark. Dead sea creatures, blood in the ocean, screams drawn in crooked letters. I tried to talk to her several times. "Laura, you need to tell me what's happening. I can help you. Do you trust me?" She always said yes, that she trusted me, but that nothing was happening. "I'm just tired, Mark, that's all." But it wasn't just tiredness. It was trauma. It was terror. It was a child being destroyed inside and no one doing anything to stop it, until that Saturday arrived. June 15th, the day everything collapsed. Ryan had arranged to go fishing early in the morning. He asked if anyone wanted to go. I immediately said I would. Wasn't going to leave him alone with Laura ever again. But Ryan was smart. He said that this time he was going alone. Need to de-stress, man. No offense, but I want some time to myself. My parents thought it was great. "Let the poor guy have his peace," said my mom. He left early, around 5:30 a.m., took his fishing equipment. I stayed home, restless, unable to sleep properly. Around 7 a.m., my dad woke me up saying he was opening the shop and wanted my help with heavy work. I couldn't refuse. He rarely asked for my help because Ryan was always available. I left the house at 7:30. Thomas was still sleeping. Laura, too. My mom had gone out to shop at the supermarket. My dad and I stayed at the shop until almost 11 a.m. When I got home, everything had turned into a nightmare. Ryan was in the living room, wet, with red eyes, screaming on the phone with the police. My sister disappeared. I was fishing, and when I came back, she wasn't home. My heart stopped. What do you mean, disappeared? He looked at me with pure hatred. You were supposed to be watching her. Where were you? Thomas was crying on the couch. My mom had just arrived and was in absolute panic. The police arrived quickly, started asking questions. Ryan said he had gone out fishing alone at dawn, came back around 10:30 a.m., and Laura wasn't home. No one else was. Her bed was empty. They started searching. Search dog, neighborhood searches, alerts in city groups. And then, at 2:27 p.m., I'll never forget that time, they found her. Laura's body was on the rocks near the beach, drowned. But it hadn't been just drowning. When the officers examined the body, they found signs of violence on the body. Brutal, with an object. And I saw it. Saw it before they stopped me. Saw the fishing rod covered in blood thrown nearby. The same rod that had been in Ryan's hand that morning when he left the house, except it wasn't his that was there. It was mine. The fishing rod I kept in the garage and hadn't used in months. The one that had my fingerprints all over it. And that's when I understood. I had been set up to take the blame. The investigators arrived at my house 3 hours after finding the body. I was still in shock, trying to process that my little sister was dead. Dead in that horrible way. They asked to talk to me privately, took me to the police station just to give a statement. I didn't even suspect. Why would I? I hadn't done anything. It was in the interrogation room that everything started to fall apart. Marcus, is this fishing rod yours? The detective asked, showing photos of the crime scene. Yeah, it is, but I haven't used it in months. It's stored in the garage. And when was the last time you saw it? I tried to think. Honestly, couldn't remember. I don't know, last week, last month. I don't pay attention to that. They exchanged looks, then showed more photos. Microscopic photos of fingerprints on the rod. These are your prints. Fresh. Recent. Of course they're mine, it's my rod. But I didn't use it today. Marcus, were you home when your sister disappeared? No, I was at my dad's shop since 7:30. And can your father confirm you were there the whole time? I paused. Shit. He was with me most of the time. But there was a moment when he went to buy a part at a nearby store. I stayed at the shop. How long was he gone? About 40 minutes, maybe? Their looks changed, from investigators to accusers. Marcus, how far is the shop from the beach? My stomach churned. About 15 minutes by car. Enough time. Enough time for what? You think I would never do that to Laura. She was everything to me. But the more I denied, the more they pressed. Showed photos from Laura's phone. Messages from her to a friend saying she was afraid of me. That I had been acting strange lately. That I looked at her in a strange way. I had never seen these messages. Had never acted strangely with her. That's a lie. These messages don't make sense. Witnesses said you were very clingy with her, that you were jealous when she was with other people. Protective jealousy. I was protecting her from Ryan. That's when the interrogator leaned forward. From Ryan? Why were you protecting her from Ryan? I explained everything. The photos, the strange behavior, the scene in the bedroom. Everything. They took notes. But I saw in their eyes they weren't believing. They were seeing it as my desperation to throw blame on someone else. Funny you mentioned that, Marcus. Because your brother Ryan mentioned that you've been having paranoid behavior lately. That you accuse him of things that don't make sense. That you were obsessed with Laura. Ryan had gotten ahead. Had planted the seed of my guilt in their heads even before I was interrogated. He's lying. He killed her and is framing me. Ryan was at the beach fishing all morning. We have his word, and we also have testimony from a fisherman who saw him there at 6 a.m. And after that? Did anyone see him after 6 a.m.? Silence. No one saw him because he wasn't there. He came back, took Laura, did that to her, and threw her in the ocean. But there was no proof. Nothing beyond my word against his. And the physical evidence? All pointed to me. DNA on the rod? Mine. Fingerprints? Mine. Opportunity? I had those 40 minutes without an alibi. Clothing fibers found on Laura's body? They matched a shirt of mine that had disappeared weeks ago. I thought I had lost it at the laundromat. But now they had found it, torn and dirty, buried near the beach. Ryan had planned everything. Perfectly. Meticulously. He had stolen my fishing rod, used it for that monstrous act, left my prints intact, then threw it at the crime scene, had stolen my shirt weeks before, had used it during the crime to leave fibers on her body, had manipulated Laura's phone to plant false messages about me, had created a narrative where I was the obsessive, paranoid brother with sick jealousy, and had done all this while building his own perfect alibi, the trustworthy older brother who was innocently fishing while a tragedy occurred. They arrested me that same night. The following 48 hours were a blur of lawyers, interrogations, and increasingly heavy accusations. My parents went to the police station. My mother cried, confused, not understanding. My father looked at me with disgust. "How could you?" he said, his voice breaking. "How could you do this to your own sister?" "Dad, I didn't do it. It was Ryan. He set everything up." But Ryan was there, beside them, with red eyes from crying so much, fake tears I knew, and he put his hand on my father's shoulder. "Dad, I know it's hard to accept, but the evidence, it doesn't lie. That son of a bitch was there, consoling our parents while I was being treated like a monster. And worse, he was enjoying it. I could see it in his eyes. A gleam of satisfaction, of victory. The trial was fast, too fast. My public defender was inexperienced, overworked, tried to argue that the evidence was too circumstantial, that there were inconsistencies in the case. But the prosecutor had too cohesive a narrative. They presented evidence I didn't even know existed, photos on my computer that I had never seen of sites about violent crimes, search history about how to hide evidence, all planted, obviously planted, but how to prove it? Ryan had access to the house, access to my room, access to my computer. He had months to prepare this plan. During the trial, witnesses were called, neighbors who said they saw me acting strangely around Laura, her school friends who talked about the fear messages, a psychologist who analyzed my profile and said I had signs of obsessive and possessive disorder. Ryan testified. He cried on the witness stand, said he always suspected something was wrong with me, but never imagined I would be capable of something like this. Said he felt guilty for not protecting Laura from me. The prosecution painted the perfect picture. Middle brother jealous of the successful older brother, frustrated with his own life, developing sick obsession with the younger sister, which culminated in violence and murder when she rejected him or threatened to tell someone. They said I used those 40 minutes alone at the shop to run home, grab Laura, who was alone. Thomas had gone out with friends and my mom hadn't returned from the market yet. Take her to the beach, commit the crime, and return to the shop before my dad got back. Technically possible, but I didn't do it. My lawyer tried to question why Ryan hadn't been investigated more deeply. My client reported suspicious behavior from the older brother. Why was this ignored? The prosecutor rebutted easily. Because the suspicious behavior was only mentioned after the defendant was arrested. It's a desperate attempt to deflect blame. Besides, Ryan Silva has an alibi. He was fishing the morning of the crime. Marcus Silva doesn't. Fishing alone, my lawyer argued. Only one witness saw him, and it was hours before the crime. And Marcus Silva was alone for 40 minutes, exactly the time needed to commit this heinous crime. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty, on all charges. Abuse of a vulnerable person, qualified murder, concealment of a corpse. The sentence, life in prison. No possibility of parole for the next 30 years. I was 21 years old. My life was over. When they read the sentence, I looked back at the gallery. My mother was destroyed, being supported by acquaintances. My father had his face buried in his hands. Thomas, at 14, looked at me with fear and confusion. And Ryan was sitting there, serious, with a convincing expression of sadness. But when our eyes met, for a fraction of a second, he smiled. A tiny smile, almost imperceptible to anyone. But I saw it, and he knew I saw it. He had won. had committed the perfect crime, had violated and killed our 11-year-old sister, had put me in prison to pay for it, and was going to walk away free. I was taken handcuffed out of the courthouse. People on the street were screaming, "Monster! Abuser! Child murderer!" Someone spit on me. Someone tried to attack me but was restrained by police. I was officially the demon, the monster, the worst kind of criminal. And the real monster was back there, being consoled by family, seen as a secondary victim of this tragedy. On the way to prison, all I could think about was Laura, her drawings of mermaids, the way she called me Mark, her hugs when I got home, her smile when I brought her ice cream. She had suffered, had died afraid, in pain, screaming for help that never came, at the hands of the very brother who should have protected her. And justice had completely failed her, had arrested the wrong brother, had left the real killer free. In the first months in prison, I tried to kill myself 3 times. Saw no point in continuing to live. Had lost everything. My freedom, my family, my dignity. And worse, Laura would never have real justice. But there was something that kept me alive. One thing. Rage. Pure rage at Ryan. And the determination to one day prove the truth. Because killers always make mistakes, always slip up. And psychopaths like Ryan have something in common. They can't stop. One day, he was going to do something that would expose him. I just needed to be alive to see it happen. So I stopped trying to die and started fighting. That's when I met Dr. Campbell, a criminal defense lawyer who occasionally did pro bono work for inmates who claimed innocence. He saw something in my case that caught his attention. "The evidence is too circumstantial," he said in our first conversation. "Everything too convenient, too perfect. Someone your age with no history of violence, no previous signs of behavioral deviation, doesn't commit a crime of this magnitude out of nowhere." He started investigating on his own. And that's when things started to appear. Thomas, my younger brother, now 17 years old, had sought out Dr. Campbell. He had information, things he had discovered about Ryan. After the trial, Ryan had become more confident, more careless. Thomas had found hidden photos in his room. Photos of Laura, hundreds of them, some taken without her knowing, some at disturbing angles. There was also a diary, a password-protected digital diary that Thomas managed to access. In it, Ryan detailed his fantasies, his obsessions, and confessed, in text, what he had done. Laura resisted more than I expected. She screamed. I had to cover her mouth hard. I used Marcus's rod, perfect, left everything there with his prints intact, used the shirt I stole from him weeks ago, then threw her in the ocean. She fought, but sank fast. And the best part? Marcus will pay for everything. The paranoid imbecile who always wanted to bring me down. Now he'll rot in jail while I'm free. Thomas had photographed everything before Ryan discovered and deleted it, but he had the proof, had the screenshots, had the photos. Dr. Campbell filed an immediate appeal. New evidence, confession from the real criminal, proof of conspiracy to frame an innocent person. But the system is slow, has procedures, has bureaucracy, and Ryan has rights too. He can contest, can claim the evidence was planted by Thomas, can drag this out for years. We've been at this for 2 years, 2 years of hope and frustration, 2 years of postponed hearings, denied appeals, small victories that lead to new obstacles. Ryan was arrested preventively while investigations advance, but he has good lawyers. Is fighting. Claiming the diary is fake, that the photos were manipulated, that Thomas is conspiring with me to frame him. My mother died a year after my conviction. Couldn't bear the pain. My father is destroyed, not knowing which son to believe. Half of him wants to believe me. The other half can't process that Ryan, his beloved firstborn, is capable of such evil. And me? I'm still here. 3 years imprisoned. 3 years paying for a crime I didn't commit. 3 years dreaming of Laura's face, apologizing for not protecting her. But now, finally, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Dr. Campbell is confident. The evidence is solid. Ryan's confession, even if he claims falsification, is too detailed, has information only the real criminal would know. There's a hearing scheduled for 2 months from now, a complete criminal review hearing. If all goes well, I could be acquitted, could get out of here. And Ryan Ryan will finally pay for what he did. Will feel the bars I felt. Will carry the weight I carried. Laura will have justice. Finally. Life inside life imprisonment is something no one can really understand until they live it. Every day is the same. The routine is relentless. You wake up at 6 a.m. to the metallic sound of bars opening. Breakfast is always the same bland thing. Then comes the yard. 2 hours where you can walk in circles, work out, or just exist. I avoid interaction as much as possible. When they find out you're here for a crime against a child, even if you're innocent, you become a target. In the first 6 months, I was beaten 5 times. Once I almost died. Improvised knife in the ribs. Spent 3 weeks in the infirmary. But over time, I learned to defend myself. Became stronger. Tougher. Less the Marcus I was and more an adapted version to survive in this hell. Nights are the worst. That's when the walls close in. That's when I hear Laura's crying in my nightmares. That's when I see Ryan's smile, that sadistic smile of victory, repeating infinitely in my mind. I was 21 years old when I entered here. Had plans. Wanted to graduate in engineering. Wanted to work in construction. Wanted to have a family someday. Wanted to be someone. Now I'm 24 years old and all I am is a number. An orange uniform. A statistic in the prison system. But rage keeps me alive. Rage and hope that truth will prevail. Thomas visits me once a month. It's risky for him because Ryan, even arrested preventively, has contacts, has people loyal to him. Thomas has already received threats, already had his car vandalized, but he keeps fighting for me. You were the only one who really saw him for what he was, Thomas told me at the last visit. You tried to protect Laura, and paid the price for it. My father came to see me for the first time last week, 3 years after the conviction. He's old, hair completely white, sunken eyes. I don't know what to believe anymore, he said, his voice trembling. But I need to ask, looking in your eyes, did you do that to Laura? I held his hand through the bars. Dad, I swear on Mom's memory that I didn't. It was Ryan. It was always him. He cried. For the first time in my life, I saw my father cry, and I think he believes me now. Finally. About what happened, I think a lot. About whether I could have done something different, whether I should have been more insistent, whether I should have reported Ryan even without concrete evidence, whether I should have taken Laura away, run away with her, anything. But I was young, was naive, trusted the system, thought the right people would listen, would investigate, would protect. I was wrong. The system failed Laura, failed me, and almost let the real monster free to do it again. Because Dr. Campbell discovered one more thing in the investigation. Ryan had other victims. 2 girls from the neighborhood who had suffered abuse years ago, but had never identified the aggressor. When they showed Ryan's photos to them, they recognized him. It was him. He didn't stop with Laura. She was just the one who resisted, the one he couldn't control. And for that, he killed her. And I was almost sacrificed so he could remain free to destroy other lives. The review hearing is approaching. 2 months. 60 days. And I'll be there. I'll look Ryan in the eyes and I'll see him convicted. I'll see justice done, even if belatedly. I'm getting out of here. Dr. Campbell is confident. The evidence is too solid. Ryan's diary is too specific. The other victims corroborate the pattern of behavior. The crime timeline was re-examined and has inconsistencies that favor my defense. My acquittal is likely, very likely. And when I get out, I'm going to dedicate my life to ensuring no other innocent person goes through what I went through. I'll work with organizations defending wrongly convicted prisoners. I'll tell my story on every platform that gives me a voice. And I'll keep Laura's memory alive, because she deserves to be remembered not as the victim of a horrible crime, but as the sweet girl who loved mermaids and dreamed of studying the ocean. It was Ryan who took that from her. It was him who destroyed our brother and our family. It was him who robbed me of 3 years of my life. But I'll survive. I'll get out. And I'll have a life after this. Laura didn't have that chance. But I'll live for both of us. If you've made it this far and understood what I went through, if you can imagine even a little the hell of being convicted for something you didn't do, I need your support now more than ever. Like this video so more people see my story. Subscribe to Traumatic Accounts to follow the developments of the review hearing that could free me. Turn on notifications to be alerted when there are updates, and mainly, comment what time it is where you're watching this. I want to know my voice is reaching people in real time, that I'm not alone in this fight. Because in the end, truth always comes to light. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it arrives too late, but it comes. And when it does, Ryan will learn there's no such thing as a perfect crime. Only criminals who haven't been caught yet. My name is Marcus. I'm 24 years old. I was convicted for a crime I didn't commit. But this injustice is about to end, and when it ends, I'll scream to the world that I was always innocent. The end.